Hello and welcome to Galaxy Advisors. The purpose of this video is to provide an example of how to use Condor 3's Fetch Twitter menus. Let's begin with an overview. This is Condor 3's main menu at a glance with a brief description of the 7 menu items. Our purpose today is can you look at the Fetch menu and specifically the Twitter or the Twitter account options. Recall Twitter, our online social networking service that enables users to send and read short 140-character messages called tweets. In essence, it says, well, what are you doing? And tweet it. I also say it's more like answering the question, now hear this, because so many information and news are provided in tweets every day around the world. Twitter was founded in March 2006, so a little over 8 years old. It has an astounding 274 million active users as of July 2014, who tweet about 500 million tweets per day. If you're interested in saying, well, how many tweets are there actually sent today, you can go to www.internetlivestats.com and actually see the number of tweets that have been tweeted today. These links are all located under the YouTube video Show More text box, so you don't have to kind of stop the video. You can go there in the Show More and copy that link and paste it in your browser. So given this enormous activity, what is the relationship between Condor and Twitter? Well, Condor 3 and Twitter have these two options, really the Fetch Twitter and the Fetch Twitter accounts options. The question is, well, what is the difference between these two Fetch options? Let's begin by looking at Fetch Twitter. Fetch Twitter really means fetch the tweets about X, where X is your query. An example, I'm interested, fetch the tweets regarding the Internet of Things, or abbreviated as IoT. The focus on Fetch Twitter is the content focus. The result is a network of users' tweets about X, and you determine what X is. Options are 3 powerful options. Repetitive search. I want to keep redoing this search over and over again at a specified time delay. I might also be interested in put a geographical fence or geofence around it and said I want to look at the tweets from around this particular city. Or I say, oh, I'm going to focus on this stadium during a game or a conference or so on. If I know the latitude and longitude, I can put actually geofence with a diameter around it. How far out should those tweets be selected? And finally, I can have an option to restrict the language of the tweet to one of 21 options. So Fetch Twitter to begin with is to fetch the tweets about X. In contrast, our second option, Fetch Twitter accounts, means fetch this user or user's tweets. So the query is the user's name or handle. For example, Charles Cricht is a person who tweets often about the Internet of Things, and Barack Obama is the President of the United States, tweets just about everything. So again, Twitter accounts is I want to focus on a person and their tweets. The result is a user tweet network, and the content may vary. Let's begin by looking at the fetch using the Fetch Twitter for. Let's fetch the tweets about X. If you click on Fetch on the main menu and you select Fetch Twitter, on the right side are going to be a series of 7 windows that are going to appear that walk you through how to complete Fetch Twitter. It begins with a data set. You'll enter in your parameters as we look at what query that you want to put in. If you want to have a repetitive option or a geolocation or geofence around the tweets, we assume that you have your Twitter keys in there. You'll get a process message while it's collecting the tweets. And if you picked a repetitive option, then it's going to give you a little wait message while it says, well, I'm waiting now in this time delay before I go out and collect some more tweets. Of course, everything is assumed at this point that you've used the file menu twice, that you've actually switched to or created a new database. You created a new data set or open an existing one. And after you draw your view, your map, or visualization of your tweets, you have these three GUI controls just as a refresher. The graph toolbar enables you to kind of grab a hold of the graph, move it around as an entirety, or using the hand icon, you can actually then move an individual node. You can use the side pick menus located here in blue to change the node and edge color, shape, and labels. Then the third option for the GUI control is located in 3 here is the keypad gestures. Enables you to take 2 fingers, zoom in, zoom out. You have the ability then to really easily look at a dense graph by zooming in on it, especially when their names are picked. You can also hover a cursor over an individual node and see its individual information displayed in the node info display box in the lower right. So these controls help you then to kind of explore that visualization you've just fetched. Overall, the sequence, Condor is really kind of a part art, part science. You think that like an artist, to begin your painting, you get out your easel, you set up your easel, you put your canvas on the easel. Well, for Condor, you actually have a 2-step process to start. You click on the file menu to, switch to a database or create a new one. You open a data set or create a new data set to begin that. You then start your fetching or collecting. In this case, we're doing tweets or tweet user accounts. And then after we collected something, we're going to jump over to the view menu, view it. We might then at that point decide, well, let's go back in the process dataset menu, and I'm going to calculate some annotations like between the centrality, closeness, degree. I might want to prune the graph a little bit. Let's go back and view it again. I might, once I see a graph that I like, I could take a screenshot out of it or export it. I might want to calculate some sentiment or influence measures, go back and view that again. I might switch over to the Analyze menu and collapse the graph by domain. So I want to, well, how do the people at the com, edu, .net, org interact with one another? I might finally decide, well, let's export this to use another software and export a .csv node and link files or some dataset properties. Or I might go all the way back to the file menu and save it as a Condor file or a .cdf. Exported that so I can put it in an off-site storage or as a backup. I might share it with another colleague or move it to another computer. Or I might go use the file dataset menu to open it up and refilter the dataset for an additional viewing. So that's part of the kind of the art and science of using Condor. You need to know the relatively sequence of what things are used and some of the functionality beneath each one of these 7 menu items. So let's look at our example step by step. Step 1, start MySQL. Step 2 is to start Condor 3. In step 3, in the main menu, click File, Create New Database. Step 4, enter a database name such as IoT underscore. I put a date here, July 11, 2014. The main thing about a database name is short, no spaces, no special characters, although you can use an underscore. In step 5, on the main menu, click Dataset, New Dataset, because we're going to create a new dataset to put our fetching our tweets in. In step 6, enter a dataset name, and I put IoT underscore Twitter. And make, again, the main thing is to make it short, no spaces. You can use an underscore, but no other special characters. Then click OK. You'll note that your dataset name will appear with a green check next to it that says this is the active dataset. Then in step 7, on the main menu, click Fetch Twitter. In step 8, the Twitter fetcher will select your new dataset. You just simply have to click Next. In step 9, these are an example settings of a query on IoT, which stands for the Internet of Things. Again, you put in your query that you're interested in. I set the number of results to 250. I didn't put any other additional options here, which you could do. And then simply click Next. Step 10, your Twitter keys will show if you've already entered those. If not, you can have an opportunity to enter in your 4 Twitter keys, and after that, click Next. Then you're going to see a process message while it goes out and collects and execute the command that you've given. And after which, that window will disappear and you're ready to view it. So after that window closes, the Twitter fetch is complete. Click View, Create Static View. Let's see what the whole graph looks like. Here's an example of a static view of the Internet of Things. I colored the nodes by geolocation. I changed the node size by between the centrality, and I hand labeled with the GUI toolbar the major nodes that had high between the centrality here. Again, at this point, you can go back and use the 3 GUI menus to further explore, using the graph toolbar, the side pick menus, and the keypad gestures. The next thing I would recommend to do is to redraw the graph and this time under the view, click View Dynamic Settings. And in this case, I said I want to look at these tweets by hour. I have a start and end date as well as a time, and I clicked on Next. I chose no history because I just wanted to see exactly each hour what were those tweets with no faded view of what happened before. This is a resulting graph where I again colored the nodes by geolocation. I changed the size of the nodes by the betweenest, which I went back to the process data set menu and calculated. And I labeled it by geolocation just to see, well, what is the geographic distribution of these tweets that are around the generic topic of IoT or Internet of Things. Some suggested next steps would be is to go back and repeat a fetch, but this time you can select a language. There's 21 language selections, including no restrictions. You could also enable repetitive fetching with a time delay. You could also enable a geolocation restriction and put a geofence around it. But then in that case, you need to know the latitude and longitude. And rarely do I haven't met anybody who knows the latitude and longitude right off the top of their head. So next I'm going to give you a site to help you attain the geolocations for specific cities or locations you're interested in. So again, go back, redo a search, test out the language repetitive fetching and geolocation options. Now, to get the latitude and longitude, I recommend using www.gpsvisualizer.com/geocoder. Again, this URL is in the show more underneath the YouTube video. Quite easy. Once you go to this site, there's an input box, and just simply type the name or the address, one per line, for the city. So I entered 5: Berlin, Germany; Santiago, Chile; San Francisco, California; Zurich, Switzerland; and Tokyo, Japan. Once I entered those in, the thing click the little green button that says Start Geocoding. Within then a few seconds comes back your latitude and longitude and the name of that you entered in. And at this point, then you could also, on step 4 that I indicated, draw a map of it. And you could also check labels on the map as well. So a very simple way to get the latitude and longitude for a specific city or even address that you're interested in. Once you're there, you can actually do a Google map of it and have it plotted as example here. You can temporarily download that map at that site. Then you can also use GPS Visualizer to draw a range ring around a city or an individual address. So once you had that latitude and longitude, just put it into lat lon there at that top box on that page, indicate a radius in kilometers or miles, and then draw the map. Again, this is a good way in which to further document of your Twitter locations that you might have put a geofence around your particular fetch. Now let's switch over to the second option about fetch Twitter accounts. Again, this is fetch this user's tweets. There's no other really option other than just putting in their username or Twitter handle. So in this case, we click fetch Twitter accounts this time, and we have these 4 process windows that we'll go through. Again, what's the data set that you want to store these tweets in? The parameters, and parameters in this case are the Twitter names, and so you put their Twitter usernames and separate those with a comma. You will ask for your Twitter keys again. If you already included, you'll just check next. And then in process menu, it goes and clicks that user's tweets. Now, one thing to kind of pick up in the previous one, a suggestion is, well, how do I identify the Twitter names or ideas to be used in this fetch Twitter accounts? Well, I used a previous Twitter search. I went up to the export, I exported the actors, And I exported the Twitter data set as the actors.csv file, and I sorted by between the centrality that I had previously calculated under the process data set. So here's kind of a top 11 sorted by between the centrality. I've highlighted there, there's the name, meaning that's the name, their user Twitter handle or Twitter name. And so then I use that to, when I was filling in the form in the fetch Twitter, to put their names in with a comma between each one, and then indicated the number of results per person. In this case, I set it 100 and click next. So again, it's a good way to get the names of the people who are tweeting, especially by between the centrality. I know these people are highly central in that Twitter network on, in this case, on the Internet of Things. So here's a map. I drew a static map of the Twitter accounts with the Internet of Things using the previous Twitter query to identify those Twitter names or handles. And I colored these by geolocation. Next, again, you can use the Condor 3 GUI controls to navigate and change and explore the graph. Another tip, if you wanted to go back and let's do it by minute, a very fine-tuned look at the tweets, is to export the data as a CSV for the links or a .csv file. If you open the file, and I've indicated one here at the bottom where it says UUID, name, source, UUID target, and then you'll see a field that says created at. Well, if you first open it, it looks like I have underneath the from, it's just like a number with a colon and then another number. It's pretty hard to tell, so you need to convert that. So if you select that created at column, then go up in Excel and say format cells, pick time, and then pick the date format, date and time format here. It will convert that kind of obscure created at time into something that's very readable. Then you can sort that from high to low and say, here, there's the very first tweet to the very last, and then you have the precise date and times that you can put in for your selection. So if you go back and you say, I want to view dynamic settings, now I'm going to view this, I'm going to say a start date of May 29, 2014, because I know that was actually the very first tweet in my data set, and where I'm going to end at, July 12th, 2014. So this is a good way to get very precision on when that tweet was created, when was it first tweeted. Then at this point, I have a dynamic view with I have a new set of controls at the bottom to do an animation of these tweets by minute if I chose, by hour, by week, by day, and so on. And then using the three Condor GUI controls, I can embellish this graph. So again, the typical sequence is to come back to the kind of artistry and science here as you use that file menu to switch or to create a database, open that data set, do your fetching, then switch over to view, process data set, analyze, back and forth, iterated, then export it if you wish. So again, although no programming is required, very beneficial to understand the overall typical sequence and some of the functionality behind each one of these menu items. For example, with the view menu, if we go back, I can do a word cloud, and it gives me a timeline and see how the words or the tweets were changing by the time scale that I've picked. I can create a sentiment and activity chart. I can do an actor contribution plots. I can do a word usage when words first came in to this tweet network, who used them by, that first who adopted it, and so on. So again, a lot of sophistication and power and graphing and analytics is going on under each one of those menus, especially the view and the process dataset menu. So with that, that gives you an overview to get you started with the Condor Fetch, Twitter, and Twitter accounts menu. We hope at Galaxy Advisors you enjoy your Twitter exploration in using Condor 3.